Lightworkers. This is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard, and you have reached the thunderwizard.com YouTube channel. So today, for all of those who, well, forget the word I was going to use, we are going to ask the question, are chakras alien implants for human genetic mutation? What if I said yes? What does that mean? Aliens are assisting with human DNA alteration. That I can definitely tell you for sure. But what I'm more interested at the moment is the thoughts that come to your head, the assumptions that come to your head the moment that I say that. Because if I say that to you, I know I'm a little clickbaity here with the title, because as you know, to be honest, I haven't heard a lot of it lately, but people were really into this idea that the chakra system was an alien implant overlay system that would allow them the ability to attach to you, connect to you. In fact, let's read one. I just found this I found this online. Sorry, I can't read and talk at the same time. Saw this online, and it's a website. It says, our false light chakra overlay implant system. And it goes on to say, there are 7 chakras, each connected to a ring of Saturn and aligned with the human anatomy and physiology, and 5 others for a total of 12. And each is aligned to a replicated strand of our original 12 strands of DNA. The chakra interface system was also designed to interfere with the way we perceive the sun's light and energy. This means it is getting in between us and our sun. And then they go on to say, Saturn is an aspect of the jealous God with a small g of religion who has been portraying itself as our creator, and is the creator and keeper of time and synthetic false light matrix. Anyway, I'm sure you've heard similar things if you're familiar with this belief system that the chakras are alien implants used by, among others, reptilians in order to access you, but more specifically to drain you of energy, all the things associated with the false light syndrome. So in order to look at this, especially if I'm saying to you that I'm open to this idea, I'm in fact excited about this possibility. So I can't tell you whether or not chakras are in fact alien implants, but I will tell you that they have a very strong connection with extraterrestrials known as Nagas, who in fact do look exactly like cobras, like giant human-sized cobras, and they can shapeshift from looking like a cobra to looking just like a human. And I am here to tell you that the system is strongly, the chakras are strongly associated with them, as well as the energy that climbs up the chakras, which is Kundalini. Very strong association with the Naga beings. Whether or not they actually created it and implanted it in us, I don't know. But I'm very open to that possibility. I am going to talk to you about what the human body is. So first we need to look at our assumptions. If you don't know what your assumptions are, you will not be able to make critical thinking conclusions. You won't be able to critically analyze the conclusions, because if your assumption is like what I read here, that first and foremost, that you live in a universe where there are beings out there who have the ability to deceive you. These are beings not from our planet who live out in space, other planetary systems, and who have the ability to impose a false light matrix onto you, trapping you here and keeping you from knowing your true power, and being able to keep you trapped in this, what they would call this prison planet. So you have to be willing to look at that. Do you have that assumption? Because if we operate from that assumption, then if I say to you that there are beings that look like this giant cobra, who have the ability to come to Earth and shapeshift into humans, cobras, humans, and that they may very well be the creators of the chakra kundalini system, if not strongly associated with bringing that knowledge to human beings. If you believe that these beings are in fact predatory beings that are here with the desire to deceive, enslave, and feed off of you, then if I tell you that these beings did in fact put chakras into our body, then that's a bad thing, right? Well, that's based on your assumption, your base assumption. But what if I tell you a completely different assumption? And this is coming from my own experience. So let me be clear about who I am. I am a contactee. I am somebody who has regular contact with extraterrestrials in higher dimensions, which, as I've said before, are very different from what you would consider aliens. Aliens, in fact, are not extraterrestrial. They are from Earth, and they are, in fact, human beings in multiple forms. Either they are human beings in suits, they are robots, very, very advanced androids that are either have AI or are programmed and, like human beings can use them. Or they are false images that are transmitted into the brain from very advanced human technologies using electromagnetic arrays and things like that. So I'm here to tell you that aliens are real, alien abductions are real, but they're not extraterrestrial in origin. So what I have come to find out after having a very, very intense initiation experience that went on for months with higher dimensional beings of extraterrestrial origin, there was a point in time where I was getting the message that these beings were in fact doing work on my energy body. And I even got the message that my DNA has been altered. And I'm not clear on whether or not they specifically altered my DNA or if it's just my DNA was reacting to the energy they were putting into me. But for all intents and purposes, might as well say that ETs altered my DNA. So they were very open about that. Now, I didn't know how to feel about that, but I had to take a look at my assumptions because I had been around long enough to hear all of the stuff I've been hearing since I was a kid about aliens implanting people with blah, 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 blah. And of course, all the stuff that I used to poo-poo years ago, which was people talking about aliens, that the chakras are implanted by extraterrestrials. Now, again, I'm not telling you whether the chakras are or are not. I'm just looking at the assumptions. And I want you to have your feelings about it. How do you feel about that idea? How do you feel about the idea of higher dimensional beings who may look like actual reptiles, that may look like actual snakes? How do you feel about them either stimulating your body to experience this or even implanting this in you? Do you feel frightened by that? Do you feel angry by that? What are your responses? And more than likely, your responses are going to be negative, because that sounds pretty negative, but that's only because we have a certain assumption about ourselves and the universe. So I want to give you a different assumption, and I want you to take your assumptions and put them aside, and you'll come back and look at them later and find out that they were created by mainstream religion. You know, what's interesting is that website that I just mentioned, you know, they went on to badmouth, you know, the God of the Bible, the God of religion, and then basically said that the God of that religion is actually, you know, a false being of light that wants to fill, you know, blah, blah, blah. But you have been trained by that religion, whether you're religious or not, because even atheists and agnostics who are very strongly pro-science. You know, my dad was a physicist. I believe in observation and science very, very much. I think it's a very important thing. I look forward to seeing our scientific knowledge expand. But our scientific system, our educational system, is actually based on the Middle Ages, where monotheism was trying to get rid of the indigenous shamanic spiritual beliefs of people in Europe. People in Europe, their indigenous beliefs was, you know, in some cases identical to what we now, you know, people want to call themselves shamans. They tend to go in the direction of Native American shamanism. But for instance, you know, people like to do Native American shamanism, they think, type of spirituality, like doing, you know, going out and trying to have a vision quest. And if you ask somebody, what is a vision quest? They'll say, oh, that's a Native American spiritual thing where you go out into the wilderness and you stay out there until you have a vision from, you know, an animal teacher or a spirit or something like that. That's actually something our ancestors did, and it was called sitting out. And if you wanted to learn something, you would go out into the forest by yourself and you would sit out in the forest until you had what people call a vision quest. Our ancestors believed in things like fetch spirits. And a fetch spirit is an animal spirit. And everyone, according to them, every person had their own specific animal spirit that was with you and protected you. So really what's going on with people who are trying to do Native American shamanism, and they're doing this kind of stuff, is they're actually digging into their own indigenous ancestral spirituality, but they don't know that, because during the Middle Ages, these Christians would come in with their monotheism, and they would tell you that being connected to earth was evil, that the earth was evil. Trying to connect to spirits was demonic. Any spirit that wasn't the Holy Spirit or Jesus was demonic. So this has seeped into science. That's why science, let me give you another example. I had what's called frozen shoulder not too long ago. If you know anything about it, it's a very painful thing. It usually lasts anywhere from 1.5 to 3 years. Luckily, I was able to get rid of it very quickly. But it was a very serious issue. My whole, my shoulder and my whole right arm full of pain, my deltoid muscle going all the way down, all the way to my finger. The nerve just completely died, and for a while I couldn't even lift my arm. Now, if you talk to a doctor, they're going to tell you it's because there's some kind of impingement here in the socket, and they do all kinds of weird things to try and get rid of it, and they think it's inflammation in the socket, and it's actually not. It's got nothing to do with any of that. You know who gave me the cure was Taoist traditional Chinese medicine, where they said what's happening when you have that is that this is a meridian. This is an energy meridian. The very places where you have all of the pain in frozen shoulder, and the points, on the muscles here that get, extremely tense and full of pain. Those are actually points associated with the large intestine, and it has to do with the metal element, which is about letting go. And they would say, if you have frozen shoulder, it's because there is some very serious emotional trauma that you can't let go of. And so that meridian becomes completely, totally blocked, and then all the energy gets stuck in there. Now, what they don't tell you is that the nerve also dies. So the people who can't lift their arm isn't because their arm is impinged, it's because the nerve won't stimulate the muscle to move. So once I started massaging that and working on that and mentally focusing on letting go of some issues that I was holding on to, it healed up almost instantly. But the reason that modern science doesn't know that is because they don't accept the idea that there are these energy meridians in your body that you can't see. You know, you can see nerves and muscles, but you can't see energy meridians. So they'll tell you it doesn't exist. And that's why if you go to a Western doctor and you have frozen shoulder, they're going to tell you it's going to last for 3 years. We don't know what causes it, and we don't know how to get rid of it. And they might give you some prednisone or whatever the hell that is to, you know, try and deal with that. Some people actually go and get surgery, and it's got nothing to do with the actual physical, you know, joint. So this is where we are at. The very idea that comes from this religion that tells you that nature doesn't exist, that nature is just a bunch of chemicals, your body is just a bunch of chemical reactions, there isn't anything spiritual. They've desacralized everything associated with the earth and desacralized everything associated with consciousness and energy. That's why you'll never hear a Western doctor talk about the chakras. You'll never hear a Western doctor talk about the 5 elements. You'll never hear a Western doctor talk about the meridians in the body. And yet, for some reason, these Chinese doctors and these, you know, these Vedic doctors, Ayurvedic doctors, are able to do all kinds of things by, you know, giving you something to meditate on, or stretching a certain way, or thinking about this, or maybe a certain herb, and they won't do any of the weird, crazy stuff that Western doctors do because they haven't desacralized the human body. So I'm here to tell you that my ET friends, not too long ago, pretty recently, took me back in time and showed me where I and a bunch of other beings, perhaps you, we actually created this earth environment. We not only created the earth environment, we have been creating the human body. So what you don't understand about your human body is that it is actually a very, very powerful piece of technology. That the human body, with the 7 chakras, and I believe what the guy said, there might be more, there might be as many as 12 or more, who knows. But the 7 main chakras, the energy called Kundalini that rises up the spine and opens the chakras, the energy known as Chi or Prana, life force energy, Orgone, and all of the meridians in the body where all of that energy moves. And then on top of that, the electromagnetic energy of the heart, which almost nobody knows about. Even Taoists, many Taoists and Vedics don't even know this exists. But you have this very strong electromagnetic ball of energy that surrounds your heart and your soul. Your soul sits right there. And it's there to protect your soul from the harshness of 3-dimensional reality. And if you are able to tap into these systems, if you are able to stimulate the Kundalini to rise up the spinal column, and then light up all of the 7 chakras as you see that person there, if you have the ability to open up the electromagnetic heart energy and have it flow throughout your whole body becomes aligned in such a way where you are actually able to walk into a haunted place, walk into a place that's, you know, where there's demons and other kinds of negative entities. You will have the ability to clean that place simply with your physical presence. When you learn that Kundalini energy, which is strongly associated with extraterrestrial beings who in fact look just like that. When you understand that this Kundalini energy is higher dimensional energy that awakens you to your true essence. This is why when people have Kundalini awakenings, they have past life memories. I've had that. This was I don't know how many years ago it was. I was doing Kundalini yoga, and I all of a sudden, boom, I had this awakening, and I relived one of my deaths. It was a very tragic death, but I relived it. Kundalini is a higher dimensional energy that connects you to yourself. So, you can go on and listen to that. You can go and listen to those people telling you that Kundalini is false light, that the chakras are a false light, this, that. But their assumption is that they are tiny little beings that don't have any power or worth or value. If, however, before you incarnated, you and your fellow light beings, it's very possible you might have been one of these Nagas in a previous incarnation. But what if you, along with a bunch of other light beings, decided that you wanted to create a technologically empowered physical body so that you could experience even more of your power? Because what ends up happening when these chakras light up and they get aligned, your chakras are probably not 100% aligned, but when the Kundalini rises and those chakras align, those 7 lights actually become a projector that you can then use your Kundalini to create a reality. And so the end goal for the human race isn't to be imprisoned. The end goal for the human race is to continue to evolve so that we perhaps might be the most powerful physical beings in the universe. And that all of the other extraterrestrials in their solar systems, their galaxies, in their dimensions, are actively working to help this human body mutate more and more and more. So that imagine being able to be in a physical body and having the power of a higher dimensional deity. You can create whole realities. So if you change your assumption from a fear-based victim mentality, which says that for some reason there are a bunch of reptilians that are sitting in the planet Saturn's rings and figuring out ways to torture you and take your energy from you, which nobody really explains why. You could hold on to that if you want, or you could completely shift your understanding and come from the complete opposite, which is not only are there no false beings of light out in Saturn trying to manipulate you and torture you and steal your energy, but you yourself, along with who knows how many other light beings, came up with an idea of how can we create a body that we can inhabit that can have all of the powers of higher dimensional beings but still be in a physical body. And you spent millions of years coming up with different ideas. You spent millions of years creating life on planet Earth and trying out different types of animals and creatures to see which ones you could most easily evolve their DNA so that you could create that perfect piece of technology that you could live in. And we finally decided on primates and monkeys. Monkeys have they've got a really good brain potential and all kinds of other things. And what if at some point during the development of human beings, you and your Naga friends said, okay, now let's put in a projector a projector that will project on multiple levels Kundalini energy to create reality. And what if you, along with maybe some Nagas, maybe some mantis beings, maybe some other human-looking like beings, maybe some grays, who knows, you came together and started to craft the perfect technology for that, and what you came up with was the chakra system. What if you did implant that into the DNA of human beings? What if that did happen? It's only a bad thing if you already have your base assumption that you're a worthless piece of garbage, that you're a little tiny piece of nothing, and that you have no value, and that the universe is filled with ugly, evil, narcissistic beings who only want to feed off of you and harm you for some reason. It doesn't even enter your mind the possibility that it could be different than that. That's understandable because we have a challenging experience here in the third dimension, and it's very easy to project that onto the rest of society. But I'm here to tell you the world that we live in was a conscious creation. Because we also said, in order for us to tap into our light being superpowers, we're going to need to refine the energy of the soul, make the soul even brighter, even more powerful, even more condensed. And the only way we can do that is if we put the soul in a very dense pressure cooker. And so we created the third dimension. And we built it in such a way that we said, you know what, let's create it so that as people incarnate, they have to forget who they are, because then they won't be authentic. Their impurities won't come to the surface. What we want is the impurities to come to the surface so that we can consciously discard them and move towards our highest essence. We can't do that if we already know the end game. So we have to be willing to forget all of that, to put ourselves in this pressure cooker, which means living through challenging three-dimensional experiences. But we can give tools. And what we want to have happen is that as time goes on, every time a human being makes a choice towards their freedom, makes a choice towards their authentic spiritual essence, we will build into the DNA that it will flip itself on and give that person more access to spiritual energy, more access to psychological awareness, more access to their past lives. We will set it up so that as we go down in there as human beings, as we continue to move closer to our spirit, we will set it up so that human bodies will continue to evolve and become more powerful, more spiritually oriented, and more conscious. And then what we'll do is we'll keep shifting the energy level of that planet up. But it's an experiment. We don't know what's going to happen. And, if we really want to make this experiment work, we have to take a risk so that human beings might not be able to pull it off, and in which case we have to pull the plug and let that experiment die out. And that is what has happened with numerous human offshoots, like the Neanderthals. Well, by the way, Neanderthals lived outside of Africa. They came out of Africa and became Neanderthals. They lived in Europe for, I think, something like 400,000 years. Human beings in our current state have only been around for 100,000 years. So that was 400,000 years of testing out that type of human body. And either that species did graduate and went somewhere else, or the reason why it faded out is because that wasn't the appropriate body for us to evolve into the higher beings we're meant to evolve into on a physical level. So if you start from a completely different assumption, then it's actually a really wonderful thing. It's an amazing thing. But you have to take full responsibility. And again, people get mad at me when I tell them that whatever it is you have in your life, you created. You chose to come here. You chose all of your challenges. And people get mad at me and they say, you know, why would I choose this? And why would people choose that? And I say, well, you know, if what you're saying is right, then what you're saying is that you're screwed. Because if you are a helpless victim, if you really want to believe that you are being victimized by reptilians or whatever else, and that you didn't choose to come here, but somebody, first off, how can somebody be proud of the fact that as a spirit they were duped into reincarnating? That would be embarrassing. Why would you want to be proud of that? People hang on to that and get, you know, are so self-righteous about, I was duped, they duped us into coming here. Well, that's not a compliment. That's not something you should be proud of. just right off the bat. But when I tell people that you chose to come here, they get mad at me, and I go, so you'd rather be a victim and not have a choice? Because if what you're saying is true, then you're screwed. You'll never escape. Because they're more powerful than you are. They're much smarter than you are. They have much more, according to you, they have much more power than you. They're false beings of light. You can't trust anything. So you'll never escape. But if you did choose to come here, then the good news is, then that means you can take actions to free yourself on every level. So not only do we have the ability to free ourselves on every level, but we created this whole experiment, this entire experiment, to create the most powerful spiritual, physical beings that have yet existed. We haven't accomplished that yet, obviously. But this is why not only are there not false beings of light out there trying to trap you on earth and deceive you, quite the opposite. There are actual beings of light who live on multiple dimensions who are extremely invested in the idea of, you know, I mean, if they came up with the idea and said, oh, let's give them these things called chakras, which will give them the ability to project their reality into third dimension. Oh, let's give them this, you know what, we live in this energy up here in fifth dimension. Why don't we give it to humans? Hey, Nagas, you guys have a lot of this energy. Why don't you come up with a way to give this energy to humans? We'll just delegate that to you, Naga, reptilian, cobra beings. Why don't you go down there, in fact? Why don't you go down to earth and live with them and teach them? Why don't you teach them how to use this kundalini, how to meditate, teach them the basics of the chakras, and then let's see what happens. So I say that as a hypothetical, but that's actually what did happen. If you've done any research into what Nagas are, you will find out that according to Vedic mythology, that extraterrestrial beings who look exactly like giant cobras, and they can shapeshift into humans and back into cobras, that they actually began teaching Kundalini yoga, and mantra, and meditation to humans. And what started happening is that those humans that were learning directly from these Naga masters started to become very powerful. And the human beings who were the rulers of civilization decided they didn't like the idea of other humans awakening to their spiritual power, because you can't control a whole society of wizards. You can't control them. Not only can you not control them mentally, you can't frighten them. You can't, you can't impose laws on them. You can't give them money. You can't give them, borders, and they're going to say, "Forget you. I'm not. Look at me. I'm training with Nagas. I'm not listening to you, King, whoever the hell you are." So what ended up happening is that all of the humans gathered together and they started a war against the Nagas. And the Nagas didn't fight back. They just said, you know what, we got to leave. We've given the tools to you guys. You can figure it out if you want, but we're going to leave. We're going to go back home. And they left behind, you know what they left behind? They left behind snakes. They left behind cobras. And if you ever looked into the eyes of a cobra, you can see that the cobra, there's something in it. There's an awareness in those eyes that other animals don't have. Now, they're not Nagas. They were left behind as a reminder. And I'm one of those people, but if you have the snake as one of your protectors, you know, you're a lucky person. In fact, I know I'm going to have a visitation from extraterrestrials if I'm walking anywhere and a snake slithers in front of me, depending on which direction he's coming from and what he's doing. I can tell what kind of visitation I'm going to have. So I want you to understand that this shift that is coming right now, which we are in the midst of, a solar flash, a solar wave event, which is probably going to last months or even years. People are calling the solar flash, it's actually a series of solar wave events that are hitting the Earth. This solar energy, if you are aligning yourself to your soul, is actually flipping on and turning off things inside your DNA. And it is creating an evolution. We are in a space where, you know, what we now call modern humans are going to disappear. What is going to happen is that there's going to be a new human that will evolve. We might not look much different than we do now, but we will have enhanced abilities. We will have enhanced spiritual abilities, enhanced mental abilities, enhanced energetic abilities. And getting back to the idea of extraterrestrials implanting you, that would have sounded very bad to me a couple of years ago. I would have said that I don't like that idea at all. But I'm here to tell you, I'm pretty certain I've been energetically implanted with all kinds of things, because my body does things it's never done before. I know I have a direct line to something somewhere. I couldn't tell you exactly what, but I know I have a direct energetic line through my right ear and my right brain, going directly to other places I didn't have a couple of years ago. And I can tell immediately when there is a higher solar radiation hitting the Earth. I can tell immediately when we're going through a solar storm. I can feel immediately when the sun is rising and is just getting ready to go over the horizon. I can feel the electromagnetic shift in the air. I can feel what happens when the sun goes down. And for the next few hours after the sun goes down, I can feel the electromagnetic shifts, and I can feel the portals opening up, and I can get even more downloads. I didn't have this before. This is a direct result of my body being directly shifted by extraterrestrial beings. I've never been kidnapped. I've never been abducted. Never been experimented on. I've never had any lost time. None of those things that you have associated with the false alien, very real abductions done by false aliens. And so I think it's a good thing. And if there are higher dimensional beings who, again, love you, probably more than you love yourself, if they are interested in giving you more tools to empower yourself spiritually, why not take it? But I think if we want to have a relationship with our higher dimensional cousins, then it is imperative that we make use of the tools that they helped us to create. If they didn't implant them into us, they helped us create them. And by using them, by chanting mantras, by doing Kundalini yoga, by opening up the meridians, by doing Qigong, by doing all the stuff that I teach on the channel here, by doing all the stuff that I teach you here in the thunderwizard.com or wherever else you get it, then we can have access to shifting our DNA and to evolving. This is the time. This is the time to do that. Time has run out. You know, the time for experimentation has run out. What's, you know, each section of the world has been given a specific spiritual technology. The East Indians have been given Kundalini, Chakras, mantra, Kundalini yoga, and that kind of meditation. The East Asians have been given Qigong, have been given the power to connect with life force energy, and that was just something that they knew. And Kundalini and yoga and mantra was something that East Indians knew. And my ancestors were given the knowledge of runes, which is another spiritual technology in and of itself. And so every single culture has been given their own technology. And now is the time where we are supposed to bring all these technologies together. That's again why I'm a syncretist, why I'm the only person in history to have created a spiritual practice that contains high levels of Qi exercises, Qigong, Kundalini yoga, mantra, meditation, as well as the almost completely unheard of electrical heart-mind energy, which I believe will become, you know, the very, very popular going forward. I think once we get into the new shift, I think more and more people are going to really want to delve into that, and that will become as popular as Kundalini and Qigong, I think, going forward. But the reason why I brought all these things together, I didn't know why I was doing it. I just brought together the stuff that I did and I liked, but now I know why. It's because I'm here to give this to you guys, whoever wants it, so that you can shift up to the next level. So we'll make another video again, going over things I've talked about before about what each one of the chakras actually does, what the point of it is, and how it is associated with your conscious expansion. With that, I'm happy to open it up for questions. If you have a question, do me a favor, write the word question in all caps. The word question, and then write your question. And if you have a feeling, write the word feeling. Now, I'm going to give you a hard time if your question doesn't sound like you've thought it through or that you understand where it's coming from. I'm gonna point that out to you. Don't take it personally. And you know, my job is to help you be a better, more authentic seeker. So just know that going into it. Before I do that, please know that this channel is here to give you the tools. So you can go onto the channel, no excuses. I don't care if you live with your parents and you're broke or you're just, you're a miser. I don't care what it is. If you go onto my channel, thunderwizard.com YouTube channel, and you go into the playlist, you will see free guided interdimensional meditations where you can connect directly with higher dimensional beings. You will see Qigong practices there. You'll see the Awakening the Immortals, the Hool Breath, Heaven Earth Qigong meditation. That will be available for you for free. If you're serious about this and you want to really start going into, flipping on and off different things in your DNA and really empowering yourself, go to thunderwizard.com and subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. About the same price as it would cost you to get a video game. You can unsubscribe whenever you want if you don't like it. Just simply press play, and all you have to do is just do the exercises that I am showing you, and I guarantee you that shift can happen if you do that stuff on a regular basis. Go to courses.thunderwizard.com to see all of my services and my Vedic astrology readings, rune readings, all of my certification programs, all that stuff there. You can find my books on Amazon. I looked at my website, michaelwilliamdenny.com, and I saw that there was a couple of books missing. But you can just go and look for my books on Amazon, Kindle, and Audible, and plenty of information. Interdimensional Revolution is my latest book for this channel, and I recommend everybody read it. All right, having said that, now I've given you plenty of time to ask questions. I'm going to take a look and see what questions we have, if there are any. Leela Mucha, welcome to the channel. If you have a question, you write the word question in all caps. Apparently, you probably wrote that before I told you to do that. You say, is this the real thing? Is what the real thing? So if you're going to ask a question, write out a full question. How is anybody knowing what you're talking about? Or is this pirated? What does that mean, pirated? I don't know anything about what your question is trying to say. So try again. If you're able to put a conscious, well thought out question, I'd be happy to answer it. All right. Zeralath Immortal, honest feeling. I get great satisfaction showing or telling people about the Dantian energies to get them beyond Kundalini work and tuning into their three selves. Okay, good for you. Nothing else. I don't see no other questions. All right, so I guess we're done. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward. By the way, I pinned up here at the very top, learn the truth about aliens, extraterrestrials. Click on that link. Every single person in the world needs to watch that video. If you want to know the difference between the lies that have been given to you and are continuing to be given to you through mainstream media about aliens, extraterrestrials, UFOs, if you want to know the truth, you need to watch that. You need to watch that video, because there is a war of, finally for the first time now, for the first time in history, we've got in the mainstream media, people are talking about UFOs and aliens. So we could say that's a good thing, except for the fact that they're still trying to lie to you about what they are. And they're still trying to hide from you the truth about all of the technology that we have. We have, and this has been, we've got, in the technological sector, the CEOs of all the, the technology companies that the government hires out. We have those people on record saying that we have everything that you've seen in Star Trek and Star Wars. We've had that and gone beyond that. So that means that, most of the UFOs that people see are not from someplace else, they're from here. All of the technology available for us to have free energy, meaning no more petroleum, no more coal, no more gas, no more electricity, no more paying anybody every month, every week so that you can drive your car or heat your home, no more paying anybody for anything. You will have, we already have the technology that every single person on the planet could heat their own home, power their own anti-gravity vehicles with no pollution. We already have that technology. The only reason we haven't been given that technology is because there's no money in it. So that the people who make all the money want to keep that technology for themselves. And that's what they've been doing. And that's why you've been lied to about UFOs and aliens and alien abductions ever since I was born. So go check out that video so you know what all that means. Yeah, all right. Let's see, what else? Nothing else? Anything else come up? Somedokin question. How do we integrate past life memories that seem distorted or deeply upsetting? So what you're really asking me is, how do you get over your feelings? It gives you uncomfortable feelings. Why do you need to do anything? I don't know what you mean by distorted. So you can't remember it clearly? Um, I don't know how to help you with that other than to meditate on it. Here's the thing with past lives. You've had probably thousands of past lives just on planet Earth. And you only remember the ones that have unresolved karmas in them. So how do you integrate them? All right, if you were to ask me that question, I would tell you, go up here to thunderwizard.com, subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong, do the practices that I give you, the energy practices and the meditations. And during the meditations, bring up those memories so that you can get a clearer understanding, push past the trauma, the fear, whatever else is blocking you from it, and work through your energies. The next thing I would tell you to do is to find a spiritual counselor that you can talk these things through. None of you should be doing this by yourself. I know it's really popular. People want to do it all by themselves, but nobody ever learns anything of value by themselves. You always have to have teachers. You always have to have people to work through. So get out of yourselves, reach out, find some place to connect with other people, find a teacher or a mentor especially. That's really the best way to go. So to answer your question, do the lightning qigong, do the meditations, find a counselor to talk to. That's one of the reasons I'm here. If you guys aren't just listening to me like dead-eyed YouTube children, and you're actually clicking on these links that I have, you see that I offer sessions and counseling and apprenticeship and things like that. I'm not the only game in town, and I don't need to be. I'm perfectly happy with you working with whomever, but that would be my recommendation. Do the lightning qigong and then talk with somebody about it. What else? Is that it? That's it. I guess we're done. All right, guys, thanks for showing up. I wish you all the best. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe, like, and share it with your friends. And we will look at this later. So Lisa, remember what I said. Look above you. You see Soma Doken? You see how he's written the word question in all caps? Do you see how much easier it is for me to see that? I can just glance down and see it. I purposefully scroll through anything that's not a question. So next time, do that so that I'll see it. You say, I do have a question. Does it hurt? Does what hurt? If you, write out a full question. The spinal cord when the light body comes in. Well, who said anything about the light body coming in? You're throwing in an assumption that I didn't say. I've never said any such thing that a light body comes in. I don't know what you're talking about. Are you talking about light beings when they connect with you? Are you talking about you? Do you believe that your light body comes into your body? What are you asking? Let me just get to it. You say because my spine has been throbbing lately. I don't know what it means. Your spine throbbing. I don't know if that means that you've got some kind of physical problem. I don't know if you've got a psychosomatic problem because you've got unresolved, trauma. I don't know that your Kundalini is awakening and you're feeling your spine. The spine does this. When the Kundalini awakens, your spine will sort of, you'll, if you just sit there and meditate, you'll start going in a circle. I don't know what you're talking about. If you're asking me it hurts, you haven't told me that yours hurts. Anyway, if you're able to ask a complete question and, make it readable and understandable, I'll be happy to answer you. The way you've asked it, though, I don't know how to answer it. Other than it sounds like you're describing Kundalini beginning to be stimulated. You need a teacher, so go find a yoga teacher, find a Kundalini yoga teacher, find a Kriya yoga teacher. I can tell by your question you're probably not working with anybody, you're probably not doing a discipline. You can do my practice. But find something so that you're not all by yourself wondering, every time your spine wobbles a little bit. Oh my God, what's happening? If you're working with a teacher, they explain that to you. So you don't have any of these questions. It's sad, but this is what most people do. Most people just sit in front of their, on their phones, and they don't have any interaction with anybody else. Back in my day, here I am, an old guy, look at my gray hairs. I can remember when I was a kid, if I wanted to learn something, I had to get up off my ass. I had to either get on my bike and ride somewhere, or I had to get a ride or get on the bus. I would have to go to a physical location, and I'd have to knock on the door, and I would have to go in, and I would have to learn from somebody. And it was a good system. It worked well. I recommend that all of you do that. You can reach out to anybody online. You could ask that same question, Lisa, to a Kriya Yoga teacher. There's so many Kriya Yoga teachers out there. You could ask them, what happens when Kundalini shakes my spine? What should I do? Get out and just start connecting and start learning. Lightbringer threw out a question. Is the light body the same as the Merkaba? Lightbringer, my question to you is, are you doing this Warrior 90-Day Challenge? What's that? No? Are you doing any of the practices I've given? Have you done Awakening the Immortals? Qigong, which you can do for free? The Hool Breath? Are you doing any of the practices that I've got? Are you doing any of them? Because that question you just asked is purely intellectual. It doesn't mean anything. If I say, the word Merkaba is a word. The light body is a word. It's a phrase. If I say to you, yes, it's the same as the Merkaba, or no, it's totally different from the Merkaba, how does that benefit you? How can you take that knowledge and empower yourself and become a healthier, happier, more spiritually dynamic person? So, when you can tap into something that you say, I know what my light body is. You know what I mean? Then you'll be able to ask a question. That question, all it makes me want to do is say, do some work, do some energy work. Do it on a daily basis. Everybody listening to me should be doing something because we're going through a shift. I don't care if it's the Hool Breath. I don't care if it's, a Buddhist mantra. I don't care if it's yoga, Tai Chi. I don't care what it is, but you should be doing something every single day. Interdimensional meditation, do something every single day to be opening up and empowering your energy body. And those kind of questions, when you're doing something, those kind of questions go away. You stop intellectualizing it, and it just becomes. You start asking questions about how you can improve the practices you're already doing, which are questions I love hearing. If I was your teacher, right? If I wasn't just some talking head on YouTube, but I was a teacher and I had like a studio somewhere, if you came to me, you could only be my student if you did the practices. Otherwise, there would be no reason for you to be my student. That's the problem here with YouTube. People don't have to do the practices, but they can come on and listen to me talk. They don't have to do the work. So anyway, you get the point. Do the work. Victoria Rowe question. Have your interdimensional friends spoke to you about the grand procession? Victoria Rowe, thank you. Welcome to the channel. Have you seen any of my videos with the title Grand Procession on it? If not, then that means that it's not something that I teach. So if I haven't taught it, there's a pretty good chance that they haven't talked to me about it. And again, that's not a question. A question is, you think I have the answer to something that you have an emotional connection to that you want to solve. Asking me what kind of underarm deodorant I wear, or have I heard what teacher so-and-so said, is not a question. It distracts you and me from what we're talking about. It sounds like your question is really, you have an interest in this thing called the Grand Procession, and you want me to talk about the thing that you're into, but that's not what we're talking about today. But to answer your question, I don't even know what that means. So if they have told me about it, they haven't used those words. All right, anything else? Sorry, guys, I know I'm giving you such a hard time, but look, there's a reason for this. What I'm doing here on my channel, I am here giving you the most powerful techniques in existence. And people ask me questions about unrelated things. Imagine that for a moment. Imagine if you have something that you know is the most powerful, most life-changing tool that humans have ever had. People are asking you about completely unrelated things. It's very frustrating. Ask me questions about how you can do the practices. Do the practices and then ask me questions about how to refine the practices. Listen to what I talk about and ask me questions. Take notes for the first 20 minutes. And if you have a question, ask questions about what I'm talking about. This is, it's more than just meeting my narcissistic need for you to do my thing. It's helpful for you to get out of your narcissism. When you go to a class, when you go to a university class and you sit there, you don't ask the professor questions about, if you're learning about math, you don't ask questions about cooking class or about Shakespeare. You ask about the mathematical problems that are being talked about in class. It shows a level of maturity, and it gives the teacher the ability to deepen your understanding of that subject. So I'm glad everybody comes here. I'm grateful for everybody who shows up, but I'm even more grateful for people who do the work, who pay attention. And then when you do the work, your questions will show me that you're doing the work. I'll know immediately if you're doing the work or not. And then I will be excited to answer your question. Let's see, what else? Santana, honest question. What mantra do you recommend when the sun is launching multiple solar flares? I have noticed that right before the solar flares, I'm completely wiped out. Well, any sun mantra will work. The Gayatri mantra, I'll write them down here. I'll write down a few for you. The Gayatri mantra. I think, Santana, you're already doing the Om Namah Shivaya mantra. So the Gayatri mantra, Om Namah Shivaya. Any Shiva mantra is associated with the sun. All kinds of things. There isn't one in particular, but you're doing the Shiva mantra, so do that. That will be helpful for you. Zeralath Immortal question. I cannot study Uranus in Vedic astrology. Why not? Sure you can. There are Vedic astrologers out there that talk about Uranus. There's plenty of them. Zeralath Immortal, you just got to put a little more effort into doing some research. You say, is there something with its traits in Vedic? Vedic astrology didn't have, is very old. It's 2,000 years old. And so, the adding of the outer planets is something that only happened in this century. So, that isn't traditionally part of astrology, but so that's why you can't find it in a lot of Vedic astrology, but it's out there. And yeah, there's Vedic astrologers who work with that. So just put a little more effort into researching it. What else? Nothing else? We all done? Okay, I guess that's it, guys. Thank you so much for showing up. Again, if you're new to my channel, here's what I recommend you do. Just go subscribe. Go subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong at thunderwizard.com. Start doing the practices. Start going into my YouTube history. Start watching older videos, because I teach, the amount of videos on this channel is unbelievable. If all you're doing is waiting for me to show up on a live stream and then watching that video. Bear in mind there's 15, 20 years of videos and books and teachings that are behind a lot of the things that I'm saying. So do some research. Don't be a lazy YouTuber, please. If you want to get the most out of my channel, you will benefit if you do research in the stuff that I teach. Use my channel as a library. Go in and watch older videos. Learn how to search for search terms. For instance, chakras. You want to know all the things that I teach about chakras? Type in chakras. Put some effort into it. You'll get a lot more out of this channel if you do. And you will become more mature. And I guarantee you, as we go forward, after the solar flash, people are going to be far more mature, not less mature. So this is a time, we've been, especially if you're 20 years, 30 years younger, you have been trained to be lazy and not be a critical thinker. That's not a judgment, it's just a fact. Because you've been trained to believe that everything is at your fingertips, especially if you're from the United States. I've been in other countries, it's a little different in other countries. People have to actually work harder in school. But if you're from the United States, you've been trained that everything is at your fingertips and that everybody's here for you, and you've been trained not to do any research, not to do any work, and they do that so that you're easily controlled. Why do you think so many people got without thinking about it? Because and you were told, don't ask questions about that, don't research that. Let the experts tell you what to believe. Remember when they were talking like that? And people who research things and study things. And by the way, research doesn't mean just watching YouTube channels. Research means that you look both sides of any issue, and you try and debunk something before you decide you believe in it or not. That kind of research. Anyway, that's a whole other skill set that a lot of people don't have. Let's see, as I was talking, it looks like there were some questions that came up. Agent of the Universe question, have you experienced purple sparks flying around after a session of holding the 3 ones? So Agent of the Universe is talking about a very powerful meditation, which I teach you on the Lightning Qigong, which is called Holding the 3 Ones. It was the most powerful meditation that Taoists used, and it was said that if you did that every day for 20 years, you would disappear and fly into the sky. That beings would come down and you would fly into the sky in the full light of day. In other words, people would watch you just like Jesus go into the sky. It's a very powerful meditation, and I don't know anybody else besides me that teaches it online. So he's talking about that meditation. So he says, have you experienced purple sparks flying around after a session of holding the 3 ones? I haven't experienced that. Obviously you have. And you're wanting me to co-sign that. Holding the 3 ones is you're pulling the veil and looking into another part of reality. So I would say purple sparks are the light beings letting you know that you're tapping into something. They're trying to encourage you to keep doing it. That's what I take from that. What else? Nothing else? Okay. That's it, guys. Thanks so much for showing up, and I love you all. Again, if I've done or said anything that's offensive or hurtful, just know that, again, my goal isn't to get you to like me. My goal is to teach you and to help you as much as I can, and that means telling you the truth. We got a limited amount of time. We've got a short time before this whole 3D goes away and we move into a new reality. So it's time to start moving. So I'm doing what I can to try and help us get focused. Thank you for everything. I wish you all the best, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.